You think the Colosseum just collapsed by half, but the truly terrifying part is, the half that disappeared might be right under your feet. This 2,000-year-old superstructure was once a complete ring capable of cramming in 50,000 people at once. But now it looks as if a piece was forcefully bitten off by something. Even more bizarrely, the missing section is almost perfectly halved, as if sliced open by a knife. Some say it was brought down by an earthquake, but here comes the question: why did only one side collapse while the other side has stubbornly stood for 2,000 years? What's even more outrageous is, scientists later discovered that the missing half of the Colosseum didn't actually disappear at all. It was dismantled into stones and melted into the entire city of Rome. The churches and bridges you see now, and even the stones embedded in the walls of some aristocratic palaces, might all be the carcass of the Colosseum. And the beginning of all this was surprisingly just because the ancient Romans built it in the wrong place. In 70 AD, the Roman Empire did something almost impossible to accomplish. They wanted to build in the center of the city an unprecedented super arena. You must know, that was 2,000 years ago, with no cranes, no reinforced concrete, and certainly no modern machinery. But in just 8 short years, a massive building, towering 50 meters high and weighing hundreds of thousands of tons, actually rose from the ground. The entire Colosseum was pieced together with massive blocks of travertine, with no mortar and no cement. Between the stones, they relied solely on their weight and interlocking structures for support. And inside these stone blocks, a large number of iron clamps were hidden, locking the entire building tightly together like sewing clothes. At its peak, the outer walls of the Colosseum were covered in snow-white marble. When the sun shone on it, the whole building looked like a glowing mountain. Inside, it could not only hold 50,000 people, but also had elevator mechanisms, underground passages, and a giant awning. Just as the audience sat down, the fierce beasts from underground would suddenly be hoisted up into the arena, appearing like magic in front of everyone. Even by today's standards, this system remains mind-blowing. But the real problem was also planted right at that time. When the ancient Roman engineers were choosing the site, they set their sights on an empty plot in the city center. But they didn't know that place was originally the ruins of Emperor Nero's artificial lake. Although the lake water had been drained, the underground soil was still soft, like a giant sponge. What's more fatal is that under the north side of the Colosseum is hard bedrock, while the south side pressed down on soft mud. In other words, this giant building from the very beginning had half its foot on a steel plate and the other half on cotton. At first, the problem wasn't obvious because the Roman Empire was strong enough. Craftsmen would constantly repair cracks and maintain the walls. But as the empire declined, everything started to spiral out of control. In the 5th century AD, a massive earthquake struck Italy. The south side of the Colosseum saw huge cracks appear for the first time. The north side barely budged, but the south side, like a giant ship sinking into mud, began to slowly sink. Over the following centuries, repeated earthquakes continued to widen the cracks, until finally, in 1349, a devastating earthquake completely shattered the Colosseum's fate. The southern outer wall crashed down, with thousands of tons of massive stones smashing to the ground. That once complete ring thereby turned into the eerie half-moon shape we see today. Do you think the story ends there? The truly terrifying part was actually just beginning. The local Romans didn't see a historical ruin, but a massive free quarry. Those stones that had collapsed from high up were all perfectly processed building materials. Ordinary people didn't need to go to the mountains to quarry stone anymore. They just had to push a cart to the Colosseum and they could haul tons of stone straight home. So, in the hundreds of years that followed, the entire city of Rome began to frantically devour the Colosseum. The most absurd part is, all of this was actually legal. During the Middle Ages, the church and nobility would publicly sign contracts allowing merchants to dismantle and transport Colosseum stones. Some were responsible for numbering, some were responsible for transporting, and there were dedicated ox cart fleets traveling back and forth day and night. The walls that once witnessed gladiatorial combat were dragged cartload by cartload all over Rome. Later on, the Palazzo Barberini, St. Peter's Basilica, and even the foundations of certain bridges extensively used stones from here. In other words, the Colosseum didn't disappear at all. Instead, after being dismantled, it regrew into the entire city of Rome. What's even more exaggerated is, people didn't just take the stones, they didn't even spare the iron inside. If you go look at the Colosseum today, you'll find the walls densely covered with little holes. Many tourists think they are cannonball marks, but in reality, they were made by people in the Middle Ages who forcefully gouged them out with drills. Because iron clamps were hidden inside the stone blocks, some people made a living specifically by digging for iron. They drilled holes along the stones, pried the iron out little by little, and melted it down to sell as tools and horseshoes. With every iron clamp extracted, the walls became a bit looser. The Colosseum, like a giant beast stripped of its bones, began to slowly disintegrate. Later, people even moved directly into the Colosseum. That's right, it once turned into a massive slum. People built wooden shacks in the arches, lit fires to cook, and raised livestock. The center of the arena was filled with dirt and planted with vegetables and fruits. The place where the emperor once sat to watch the games became a place for ordinary residents to hang their laundry. During its most absurd times, inside the Colosseum, there were even blacksmith shops and small chapels. The greatest building of the ancient world ultimately was reduced to a giant residential block. It wasn't until the 16th century that things suddenly took a turn. At that time, the Pope realized if this dismantling continued, the Colosseum would eventually disappear completely. So he did something extremely clever. He declared it a sacred site of Christian martyrdom. From then on, stealing stones from the Colosseum was equivalent to blasphemy. As a result, this trick really worked. Nobles and merchants didn't dare to dismantle and transport on a large scale anymore, and the Colosseum finally kept its last half. Modern scientists later discovered that the truly amazing thing about the Colosseum is not just its scale, but that it has actually been alive all along. Today, underground Rome is filled with subways and traffic vibrations. Whenever a train passes by, the Colosseum sways slightly. To monitor it, Italian engineers installed inside the walls a massive number of high-precision sensors, recording the stone movement data in real time. Because this 2,000-year-old behemoth is still slowly breathing to this day. What's more amazing is, restoration experts now don't dare to repair it recklessly because the thermal expansion and contraction of modern concrete and ancient stone are completely different. If they forcefully fill the cracks, it might instead burst the walls from the inside. So current restoration methods are very restrained, only cleaning the surface grime bit by bit and slowly removing the black soot with lasers. After cleaning, people discovered for the first time that the Colosseum was originally not a gray ruin, but a giant building that was almost white. So, do you understand now? The missing side of the Roman Colosseum didn't just simply collapse. It was first torn apart by earthquakes, and then swallowed bit by the whole of Rome. Those missing stones didn't evaporate, didn't rot, but became churches, bridges, palaces, and continued to live in this city. It is like a dismantled behemoth spreading its bones all over Rome. And the most ironic part is, it's precisely because it is incomplete that we will remember it forever. If the Colosseum had been preserved completely to this day, it might just be an ordinary ancient building. But now, that massive broken gap is like a scar bitten open by time into civilization. It allows everyone to recognize at a glance, this is Rome.